Good morning, TEDx community. Please wave if you can hear and see me. Hi, it's so good to see you. Hi, David. Hi, Mel. Hi, Bruno. Hi, Dirk. Hi, Mark. So happy to see all of your faces. Welcome to another TEDx community hangout. Today we're talking all things social media. You know, right now, this is a really big moment for TEDx to transition into creating virtual and digital content, to engaging our communities in brand new ways. And who better to speak about that than our own Director of Communications, David Rosenberg, who will talk about social media with Nastya Koslova and Vlad Gozman of TEDx Vienna. Can you guys wave and say hi real quick? And then I'm going to go to housekeeping notes. You. Hey.
Hi there. Hey.
Hey, Vlad.
Glad to be here.
So glad to have you. A couple of reminders for all of you. I know many of you may know this by heart from coming to so many Hangouts, but just in case. Remember that we want to hear your questions and your ideas, so please chat them in the chat, and we are working behind the scenes to float up your questions to David to pose or hear you ask later in the Hangout. Remember during the interview to keep your microphone muted, and you know, show us your creativity, show us your ideas. We're going to challenge you a little bit, so we're really looking forward to your engagement in this Hangout. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to David, and I'll see you guys soon. Hi, David.
Hey, Caroline. Thanks. Hi, everyone. A lot of familiar faces here. So first, there's a couple things that I wanted to just kick this off with. Even when I was sending out this email for you all, I don't know how you all do it, but for me, the worst part of sending out emails is always the subject line. And the subject line I had was shifting your social strategy, because often social is like a general term we use for social media. And then when I was going through it with Caroline and Salome was like, you can't say social strategy, you have to say social media strategy. And so for me, it's like, because obviously today social means so many things, right? Social distancing, social, everything. So it just kind of speaks to the ways in which we are all at this place where social media is really important and really nuanced. And there's a lot of ways that different directions you can go with it. So for me, when I go through everyone's social media channels here, it's really inspiring as always. And one of the reasons why I wanted to speak to Vlad and TEDx Vienna is because they do a really great job of keeping their social media channels robust throughout the year. And this is something that I always say is really important because you're promoting your events, and when your event isn't happening, it's really great to have your audience there looking at other types of content. And so what I wanted to start off with Vlad is to ask him, first of all, what it was like for them. They already have an editorial calendar that they establish throughout the year. And then when something like this happens, when a crisis happens or this pandemic, what you do, Vlad, how you shift from an established calendar where you have all this great stuff teed up, and then all of a sudden you say to yourself, okay, we got to take this in a different direction. And so why don't you talk to us a little bit about your strategy and when and how you guys decided that it was time to start shifting?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me again. It's great to chat with you, David, and to all of you other guys in the call. See, we have over 46 attendees so far, so it will be great to hear your questions as well. As you said, David, we approach social media not only as a promotion channel, but we have a content plan for the whole year, like a 12-month content plan where we think of our social channels as just another channel for promoting ideas worth spreading. So either it's our content or curated content from other sources. So because it would be a pity to leave that unattended, so to speak, throughout the year in between your events, and not do anything with the audience you can reach there. So that's like first after 1 or 2 years doing it back in 2011, we started shifting this mindset in towards, okay, let's have a whole team dedicated only to social media. The team can curate ideas and promote them and engage in conversations over the different channels that we have. Now, having that team is pivotal, and that's why I wanted to place it sort of in this context, because having that team is pivotal to making such a short-term change, if you will, because when Corona hit and COVID-19 started to be more clear, like the global threat that it is, to be more clear to us, we gathered everybody in the team leaders. We have a board, so each team has a team leader and a co-team lead, and we had this like crisis meeting where we discussed about potential scenarios. And the worst scenario was we will not be able to do any more physical events, at least to the scale that we are used to. To put it also in context, our main event is 1,500 attendees. So that's where this was around 6 weeks ago. And that's where gears started to be put in motion. And after sort of we decided, okay, it probably at least we're going to postpone our main event. Then like a week in, we started thinking about, okay, but in these times of crisis, the TEDx Vienna community needs communication more than ever, and on a more frequent level and on a more personal note. So it will be not enough for us to just share content from all around the world, but we'd like to engage with them in a different way. So it was easy in a sense because we had this team in place, and Nastya is on the call as well, and she's the team lead for our social media team. And with her help and all the people behind it, we were able to quickly sort of do this grassroots thing of creating a new format, which is called Food for Thought. We're going to talk a bit about it, and just shifted into our content plan. It worked out pretty well so far. We're 4 episodes in.
So I think Vlad, what is saying is really significant is this idea of if you're not promoting your event, right? So a lot of people, when you're doing your event, we do it as well when we promote one of our workshops or events. If you're no longer promoting your event, you're still promoting your brand, right? And so you still have a brand, you still have your TEDx event. And for me, it's like, it's this one thing, and it's a continuous thing, because if you're constantly promoting your brand, then you're automatically promoting your event when your event does happen. And so if you are shifting, as Vlad said, into this idea of a new form of communication, then you have this audience who's already ready and hungry for content. And so I guess I want to talk a little bit more, Vlad, about that idea of content, like 2 things. One, how did you guys decide to put this new programming on? I believe you put it on Facebook Live, correct? And because that also is a social channel, of course, Facebook, and how you just walk us through a little bit about why you chose that particular channel to start this new program, and give us a little bit of background about Food for Thought.
Sure. So we as I said, we wanted to do something that is sort of quick and react while the community sort of needed this type of content. So in the beginning, there was a lot of misinformation around COVID-19. And the spreading online. So that's like the downside, the dark side of social media, that it helps quickly promote any type of information. So it can be a bad type of information as well. So there were a lot of questions, from basic ones. What is the difference between SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19 and Corona? and is it good to wear masks or not, stuff like that. And the first idea was, okay, we have this pool of amazing speakers that we're still in touch with, that who were on our stage over the past 10 years. Let's reach out to the experts among them and invite them to one-on-one calls. Because first of all, we want to know ourselves, so we want to make the info clear for ourselves, and then why not share it with everybody else? So it's a simple concept, food for thought. It's actually the idea of my co-curator Alina Nicolaou, and she basically came up with a simple idea. It's why don't we have dinner over a call with a past speaker and talk over dinner, as you would, right? Like ideas get exchanged over food. Food is a great catalyst for that. We can't physically engage with them, but we can do it over a call. And while we're eating, we are talking about these ideas related to the current situation, right? And we started it off easily with Joe Hansen. He's hosting It's Okay to Be Smart. It's a PBS YouTube channel. He's a YouTube educator, but also biologist. So he has his ground research really proper in place. So he was the first one to talk about the medical side of things, right? But then we thought about different concepts. What else are people interested in the community? So we started asking a bit around, and some topics that we were not even thinking about came into play, like intimacy. How is the current social lockdown affecting intimacy? How is it affecting loneliness? But also global topics like how might this affect global power structures? How will the economy be impacted? And the good thing is, like all of you, most likely, we have access to exactly the kind of people who can talk about these topics. So it's easier to put on than a TED Talk or a TED event. They don't have to prepare anything. It's we just create a WhatsApp group and coordinate with them, create a visual, promote it a few days before through our social team on all the social channels. So we create visuals for different formats, right? Put it on the newsletter. Have a landing page set up where we have the speakers listed, but with like minimal information. So because of course we have other stuff to do as well, and that's it. So it's basically super simple, and we chose Facebook just because of the viral effect. So we actually had a bad experience 2 episodes ago where we couldn't live stream on Facebook and we had to do YouTube, and we saw the comparison and the numbers were way lower on YouTube, just because in Facebook it's promoted in the stream, so everybody who stumbles upon it gets to see it. We have the biggest following on Facebook, almost 30,000 followers. So the viral dynamics and mechanisms and the followership were definitely the reason for us choosing Facebook.
Great. I wanted to ask Nastya a couple questions as well, because I know a lot of people aren't necessarily creating content like Food for Thought, right? So you still want to keep your social media channels robust and engage with your audience. So what else are you guys putting out there besides this kind of content, or what kind of content are you sharing? And also, where are you sharing information? Are you kind of finding that you're having better results on certain channels or on in different types of formats? So maybe you can speak to us a little bit about that, Nastya.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. So basically, except of Food for Thought, we also have a great blog team who produce a couple of blog posts per week. They're very informative and very interesting. We promote them through all of the social media channels. when we have days without a blog post or without a need of promoting food for thought, we can also think of our own content. For example, I personally lead Instagram, and I have a team of amazing girls who lead other channels. So like we have one person in charge of a channel. And basically, if we have kind of an Excel document with all the ideas collected on innovations in medical technology, for example, or love philosophy, and all of the social topics which can be interested for our community at an exact time. And now with coronavirus, it's interesting how basic topics of happiness or how to entertain yourself at home, how to make yourself happy while you're in lockdown, those topics are actually very good accepted in our community because people want to see something positive, something that can make them happy. And that's what we do. We come up with a topic, for example, habits to do at home for 1 minute, which can make you smile every day. Then we discuss it during our group call and promote it through the channel which is more accurate for it. For example, if I have a long text, it's better to be promoted on Instagram or Facebook because Twitter has character limits. That's what we do.
Got it. Do you also, I'm curious, just to give everyone a little insight, when something like this happens at TED, for example, like let's say we have a big crisis happening, like a school shooting, we tend to stop promoting stuff on social media until we get a handle of what's happening. And then because we don't want to just send out tweets or posts that feel really callous or might be misinterpreted. And then we kind of take the temperature and we say, okay, people are interested in this. And we kind of pivot and we start to do more conversations like that. I'm curious from your point of view as well, how you decide to enter conversations. I know there's a lot of hashtags or there's different ways that you can enter something or maybe start your own. And Nasya or Vlad, I don't know if you guys have any insights into what you do or how you look at this kind of thing, how you start conversations or enter them and feel safe doing so.
Okay, so if we're talking about hot political topics, conflicts, and really negative things, like we're not a magazine, and I personally am always asking Vlad and Alina, our curators, for whether we cover the topic or not, because with COVID-19, I mean, the topic is huge, and not covering it for a couple of months will be really hard. But with the small, dramatic, hazardous events, this is really a good question. And like, happily for me, while I am a lead of social media team, nothing like this has happened. But if this happens, we do cover the topics which can help people feel better with, for example, safety or healthcare, like in terms of coronavirus. I will take this example. So if a dramatic thing happens, we need to give people some time to breathe and then provide them with something that can be helpful for them, not to feel overwhelmed with how hard things are in this world. And I believe this is the right thing to do, but if we want to engage, we need to have a permission of our curators. Like, I do not make this decision on my own. I do it with the whole team, and that's what is right because we are TEDx Vienna family. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that that is social media isn't just one person, and I think a lot of people get confused by that it is important to bring in as many people as possible because you are essentially taking a temperature, a collective temperature of what's happening in the world. There are two things also I'd like to touch on briefly, and I think just trying to look at the upside with something like this, and there are two things that I think are really important. One is you have a freedom of being transparent. Which is not always the case. You can kind of say like, hey, this is what we're finding. This is what's going on. We're just trying to make this work. We're all stuck at home. We're trying to do things that are interesting or new. And you also have this power of experimentation I think you saw in the beginning, even of this hangout, Caroline did a little thing with the globe, and it's like a DIY thing, which is super current right now. And I think we all have this opportunity to try stuff. You do have a little bit more freedom than you normally would, and there's great ways. Maybe Stasia, Nastia or Vlad, you guys can talk a little bit about some ideas that you use. There's great graphics programs out there that are really, really cheap or free that you can use to create some visuals and just try stuff that might maybe normally you wouldn't have tried. So I don't know if you guys want to speak a little bit to what you guys have been doing or what you use to create kind of this vibrant posts.
Yeah, I think Nastya is best positioned to talk about tools that we use and how exactly we implement them. I just want to emphasize once more before that as Nastya mentioned and you, David, social media is sort of a team, and they act as autonomously as possible. In our case, for TEDx Vienna. And we have sort of this rule set. Okay, we know what we want to promote, and we know that there are some topics that might be out of on the outskirts of this rule set, and that's when we get together and talk about it. So if it is something, a tragedy happening, as you've mentioned, David, just to make it one more time clear that we're not, we don't think of ourselves as a medium reporting necessarily about topics like that. So we are not the best position to comment or report on that, but we are well positioned if a topic like that arises to offer content that helps our community get over it, or create some positive feedback for the community, or offer sort of a channel for relief in that sense. Yeah. And Nastya, maybe you can go into the
sure.
tools.
So coming back to the tools for visual content, for example, there are numerous tools for Instagram stories, and mostly all of the tools for producing content for users who scroll with a phone, it's all free. And if we want to dive deeper and provide better quality, something interactive, for example, an interactive video, or create our own visual design, which would be in motion, we need to go deep, to dive deeper and use some other apps, basically. Do you want me to name them? That's what I need to ask. Yes?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, so for visual content, which is non-moving, we're using Canva and Canva Stories. These two apps suit all the formats of social media, except of like Canva Stories is specifically for Instagram. And a lot of people have been reaching out to our Instagram channels to ask for it. And there is another app which is called Over. Over is basically an amateur app for creating logos and collages, but we're using it to create visual content for all the channels as well. Sometimes we experiment with videos. I cannot name you the exact apps because it usually takes like up to 5 of them. And it is quite time consuming, but if you would want me to, I can provide this information later as a post to TEDx community specifically.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think there's many resources as possible. There's a lot out there. I mean, I know at TEDx I use a lot of Adobe Spark, which does have a small fee, but it's not too crazy. And there's a lot of really great templates for making stories. I use them on the TEDx stories, and also I do a lot of the social media for circles. So I use it for that. It creates really wonderful templates, and you can put in your own fonts, and you can do all sorts of great stuff with it. So I think maybe we're going to switch now to the Q&A portion. And I also forgot something in the beginning of this, which let's see if we have time to do this, but usually we ask a question at the beginning of these Hangouts and have you all write it down on a piece of paper, and then you can hold it up at the end. And our question is, if you were going to make a TikTok video, which is something that we have not experimented with personally at TED, but if you were going to make one, which song would you pick for your TikTok video? So it's just something to think about in the back of your mind. At the end, we'll have everyone hold out their answer and see what it is. So the first question I think we'll take, I think Kat Haber from Vail, TEDx Vail, has a question.
Kat, are you able to speak? David, I think you can go ahead to the next question and we'll circle back to Kat.
All right, we have a question from Jack Abbott from TEDx San Diego. And his question is, so they're rebuilding and scaling, and so they have a small or a new TEDx team. And so for teams that have smaller or newer teams, what are the key or the most important strategies? And I'm assuming this is maybe for starting your social media. I'm not exactly sure what he means, but I guess in general, or maybe right now, just during this time. So I don't know if Vlad or Nastia, if you guys have some thoughts on what you think would be the most important thing, the most important strategy to start with if you were a smaller team. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, sure. I can talk a bit about the experience I've had when starting it in 2010. Although, to be fair, a lot has changed in the world of social media since then. But I think some things might still apply, though. So when you start off, I think a really good idea is for a licensee to also have their hands on social media, just to get to, like, if you get to do it yourself in the beginning, you will have such a better understanding of its importance and its potential impact. So you'll be probably more inclined to use it as an additional information channel rather than only a brand awareness channel. I think that was the main case, the main reason for me that I thought of it as more of a than a promotional channel. So I think first of all, get your hands dirty as a licensee, and then quickly find one person who can manage, who can take over like a social media management. And they probably won't have a team yet, so they will be the one person doing it. And because you don't have a team, think about what are the main channels that you want to, or the main channel probably, the main channel that you want to address in the beginning, so to kick it off with. And to be able to decide that, it's probably good to know who your audience is, right? What target group are you looking at? What age groups? So, I mean, there has been and this is the point where I come back to the fact that a lot has changed in social media, in the social media landscape, especially in the usage of it. Is that in 2010 you had a younger demographic on Facebook than now, for instance, right? So if you want to reach that demographic, it might be better to start off with Instagram than Facebook. For us then, it was better to start off with Facebook. So we, not even sure there was Instagram back then. No, I think there wasn't. So yeah, or if you want to go really, really young, start with TikTok. We're just experimenting with TikTok right now. And I think then progressively grow that team. We thought like the more channels we have, it's better to get a person on them to specialize, sort of, and you're not looking at finding somebody who works professionally with Pinterest to put on Pinterest or in charge of Pinterest. It's just about having that one dedicated person who can then experiment, and also empower those people to take ownership. And as I said, if you draw the outlines of where we move and what we want to achieve, then within those guidelines, as we have with TED, just tell them to get as creative as possible. Yeah.
I can add something also quickly to that, because I've recently helped launch like TED Circles. And, we obviously have a little bit of help because it's a TED brand. But the thing is, I think there's two things that are super important. One is to be regular. You really have to make sure that you post like every single day and be regular at the same time. And so that people know and they come to expect that they're going to get some content from you. And the second thing, if you're just starting out, is to share a lot. And the one thing I always say about the TEDx community is you are really lucky because you have thousands of other people doing the same things, and you have all this great content that you can pull from. So you do have a wealth of resources that you can share. You can join conversations, as many conversations as possible. Be like a really nice person. Come into the conversation, say, hey, I agree with what you're saying. And hey, we have this important thing that's happening. If you have a speaker who has any kind of social media influence out there, engage them as well in the conversation. Like, see what you have already and try to amplify those voices as well. So I think those are, if you're starting, are really great ways to really just be regular and to share as much as you can. Sorry, I muted myself. I have another question here. This one is from, let me see here. From Mukuka from TEDx Lusaka. And his question is, where there might be challenges such as load shedding, lack of access to internet, data expenses, etc. Are there any other community members that have found some great workarounds with these particular sets of challenges? So I don't know if there's anyone here who's had lack of access to internet that can jump in and answer this question.
If you have, feel free to. Oh yeah, go ahead, Nastya.
Yeah, so like lack of access to internet can be different for everybody, but if you have it, like if you face this issue and you know that like I want to post every day to Facebook and Instagram, for example, you can find great social media scheduling plans. Some of them are paid, some of them are free, and you just upload all of your content. You need to prepare it in advance, but you upload it when you have internet access, and then the scheduling tool, some of them can post the content instead of you if you know that you won't have internet access this week. So this is my answer.
That's great. If anyone else has something, if not, I can go to the next question. All right, so I'm going to call on Yashraj from TEDx Gateway, who I think has something to say about TikTok.
David, we'll work on Yashraj's audio. You can go ahead and go to the next.
All right, so let's see what the next one is here. So we have Stephanie, and the question is, we are using TED Circles for engagement. What are some other successful strategies you use or can recommend for better engagement with your community? So I can answer that quickly for what we're trying to do right now. Like I said before, now is a great time for experimenting a little bit. And one thing that we started doing on Twitter is we would ask our audience, tweet at us either like an emoji about how you're feeling or a subject that you're interested in, and then we will reply with a TEDx talk that we think is appropriate for that. And for us, it's like a heavy lift because we've got like over 500,000 followers. So we tend to get people sending in a lot of stuff quickly. Fortunately, I work with Haley Reisman, who's been at TEDx for 8 years, and she's got an insane memory for TEDx talks. And she's like, it's amazing just to watch her find relevant TEDx talks. So I think that's one way of trying to get people involved. People love to participate. Everyone's got an opinion, and I think people like to share those. It's something to keep in mind. We also do challenges, and I think we all see various forms of challenges online right now. For example, we did one at TEDx where I said, hey, just go ahead and on Instagram stories, post how you use the X. And I got a lot of feedback to something where you can send out something to your community. Like you said, you're in Circle. So in a Circle, you could ask each of your guests to kind of give you a prompt, like, what was this experience like? And you can edit a short video where you can just kind of edit those, like show that question in the beginning, like, what was the best part about this? And do a quick one-word answer. There's lots of ways that you can kind of engage your audience. I don't know if anyone else has things that they've done that they want to talk about with engagement. If you want, raise your hand. Yep.
Yeah, so just for our Food for Thought series, what I didn't mention is that we stream on Facebook, but we also have, besides the hosts, we have somebody from the team, one of my co-curators, basically skimming through the comments on Facebook, and we encourage the community, and we inform them also before the call that they should and are able and should ask questions. And then that person pops up roughly 3 times in the call, also visually, and then asks the community questions. And we saw an increased engagement over the first 4 episodes. I think people are hungry for ways to express themselves.
Is there anyone else that wants to add anything to that before I go on to the next question? Can't see everyone, so I never know. I'm not sure. Anyway, we have, I think we have Dirk here who has a question, and I think he's going to ask it. So let that happen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Lovely. So I just want to say TED Circles has done really, really good for us at TEDx Luxembourg City. My question's a little bit possibly unfair to Anastasia, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. It's a question about motivation, really. So we have our event is typically in June, and we have about 1,200 people. So it's a pretty big event, and we do really engage everybody in Luxembourg City. Around the time of the event, we have a team of volunteers of about 40, and they're all incredibly busy, as I'm sure you all know. And I'm not sure whether they feel hard done by or whether it's just guilt, but it seems like the social media team are busy all year round. And I guess the question is really about motivation. So what could I, as an organizer, do to try and keep the social media team super motivated? So what do you find motivates you, Anastasia?
This is a really great question because my motivation comes from different backgrounds, and every time I receive a comment from TEDx Vienna team or from somebody on Instagram like, hey, how do you do stories? They are amazing. My face becomes red and I feel super happy and motivated to post all the time, even if I understand that I do not, this is not obligatory and I can make myself a schedule of 3 posts per week or something. But I still feel a need to, if I'm a part of TEDx Vienna community and everybody's working so hard to make this miracle happen, to provide people with ideas, blog posts is writing incredible articles. It takes a lot of time. Vlad and Alina are always coming up with amazing ideas how to engage us and how to engage people from outside. So when I see hardworking, inspiring people around me, I also understand that I cannot just give it up for them, for my team, for our community. And I want to show them that their work is appreciated, and the whole team of mine does the same, because we're professionals and we believe that we can bring something to the table, and we feel like we need to do that.
I'm so great you're part of the team, Nastya. Thanks a lot.
I wanted to add something to that as well. And I don't know if Vienna does this, but I do know there are teams who do have a very robust social media, and they will kind of lead up to the event. They'll have a team that is in place for the event itself and who's doing like all the crazy kind of 24/7 work. And then when the event is over, they have a new team that'll come into play. So they'll have volunteers who might work for a few months just to give that team a little bit of a break. And I know that you can shift if you're lucky enough. Trust me, it's really hard to find good people who have like the stamina to do social media, because it does have heavy burnout and it is really intense, especially if you're getting a lot of really negative stuff thrown at you or just like a lot of questions. But if you are have a little bit of luxury where you can afford to have a volunteer who can kind of take a little bit of pressure off of your normal team for just a few months post event, kind of just keep things going so the other person can recharge. I've heard of a few teams that do this, and I think it's quite successful.
I had something to add. It's Mel from TEDx Bristol. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I think motivation is such a crucial issue, and it's really hard when you're churning all the time. One thing that we found worked was creating kind of like a pipeline, so there's some progression for people. So people who came in new were learning from the more experienced people, and the more experienced people were able to mentor the new people, and then the kind of more experienced one then we connected them to kind of partners who then maybe had job opportunities or wanted to kind of offer them roles. So it was that feeling that you're always learning, or you're always gaining something, so you're not kind of staying, I guess, kind of static, seeming towards the next level. And one of the most successful partnerships we had was with University of Bath Spa students. So they were coming in, learning from our team, and going away with this kind of work experience and this credit on their CV. So I think if there's a way to create a kind of a pipeline progression for everyone who's involved, it feels like there's more, you're obviously achieving a great event and great social media, but you're achieving a kind of skills exchange, which I think particularly in social media is really, really useful.
That's a really good point. I think that's super important. And especially I know teams that do that, like have a mentor, it really is successful. And for someone to kind of show them the ropes, and also just because you never know if someone's going to suddenly drop out, right? You want to kind of always be training someone, because things happen and someone might just be gone, and then you're kind of like forced into an uncomfortable situation with that. I want to go to another question, because I think we have Yashraj from Gateway, I think, is able to jump in.
Hello. Hi,
Hey,
David.
we can hear you.
Yep.
You were to ask a question, is it?
Did you have a
Yashraj,
question?
tell us about your TikTok.
Right. We just got on TikTok almost 2 weeks ago, and we just started posting on TikTok, and I think we have close to 1,600 followers. I mean, that number might be small, but it grows, it doubles every week. And it's interesting where TikTok runs a program called EduTalk, and they talk about, in China at least, a lot of teachers, startup gurus use that channel to teach people. But in India, it's all about Bollywood. So I think somewhere when people get tired of Bollywood and other things, they come back to see a glimpse of a TEDx Gateway talk. So I think we've just started growing our community on TikTok, and there are millions of people who are more active on TikTok rather than Instagram here in India. And I think even if you're 0.01% of the crowd, it's okay. You can start by sharing these talks and start different. And it's wild. It's TikTok is crazy. It reaches hinterlands in India. Instagram doesn't reach there, but TikTok does. So I think we're gonna start translating our talks in Hindi and different languages, or at least subtitling it and then sharing it on TikTok. That would be our strategy ahead. And we do
Yash,
a web
right.
stream for the webinar.
That's amazing. What exactly are you sharing? So are you sharing snippets of your talks?
Yes, I think we're sharing small snippets with subtitles. Typically content that you can use, you can just watch without audio. If you're in office or if you're traveling, you can just look at it and you get to understand it. We're sharing inspiring stories, and we've just started sharing our webinar. We do like a weekend webinar. So TikTok's given us their backend to stream. They're trying it out right now. I don't think webinars are allowed, but they've just allowed us to do a trial of it. And every weekend we have close to 400 to 500 people who come in on TikTok to watch these webinars. And TikTok is predominantly Bollywood or cricket and nothing educational here in India. So this is like a refreshing change people might just go to. So you should try it. It's going to be amazing. I'm quite excited to see what all we can do using TikTok.
We were also starting to develop our TikTok channel now. Like we've established it like yesterday because everybody's got more free time, and now it's just the exact time to gather together and decide which content do we want to share and which strategy would we implement, as the channel is relatively new for the format we have of TEDx. So, but thank you for sharing, because it is very useful for our future development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I think we have Mukuka. Is he able to get online now?
Hi, guys. I don't know if you can hear me or see me.
Hi, we can hear you and see
Hello.
you.
Oh, okay. So I'm from TEDx Lusaka, and I'm the digital media lead. So we've had some unique challenges because, number one, we're in Zambia and is in Africa. And for us, there's a couple of challenges that I've already noted, like the load shedding, the lack of access to internet, and even data expenses. So yes, we've tried out the scheduling type of stuff and everything else that you would normally do if you know that you have load shedding issues. However, it's not just limited to us, but also our audience members. So this year we're thinking of going virtually, but then the problem then comes in when at least of our audience members may not be able to come online and watch a virtual event. It kind of like stops other people from participating. And even in terms of our volunteers to join our social media team, it's limited to people who have their own phones, who have access to internet, who understand the social media platforms. So it really is prohibitive to some of our audience members if we have a virtual event. But we're trying to have a look at the different workarounds. And one of the things that we had come up with initially is maybe getting a telecommunications company to sponsor our data, or even give us the portable Wi-Fi devices, the MiFis. But obviously that we've been hindered in the past by TEDx rules around sponsorship. And obviously having sponsors, they want to be seen as promoting something, and they want to be out there. So the TEDx rules in terms of sponsorship also kind of hinder that partnership or relationship, which would help us be a little bit more visible and actually have access to internet, and the expense be shouldered by a corporate.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing all of that. That's Um, great. So I think we're unfortunately just about out of time here. And I just wanted to thank everyone for joining this. Obviously, something like social, you could talk for 5 hours on this. So first, I want you all to be able to know that you can always reach out to me at David at TED if you have any other questions, and you can also reach out to me on across all of our channels. And if you have any ideas or any thoughts or any questions, please always feel free to reach out to me. And we wanted to see if everyone wanted to share the songs since we ended almost on TikTok there. If you want to raise your hand if you want to share, and I think Sandra might have something to share.
Hi. Hello,
Okay.
how are you?
Good.
Hi. I'm also from TEDx Lusaka, and we don't have a TikTok channel yet, but I've been experiencing TikTok for myself thanks to my son, and I think that what I Will Survive will be good, because now that we are trying to find a solution to go online for our. Oh, okay. Sorry. We all have talks here. So we all trying to find solutions, and I Will Survive. I think it's a good song that will get everybody really engaged. But also all those TikTok challenges are very interesting, and sharing it on Instagram. I'm more on Instagram than on TikTok. And thanks to me sharing those challenges that I'm doing with my kids on Instagram, I get more and more people who are, interested in TikTok itself. And so that's something that it's worth trying, even for the TEDx community.
Great. Thanks, everyone. On that note, I Will Survive. Great song. Great way to end it. I appreciate that. So thanks to everyone for joining us. And I really appreciate everyone's thoughts, and especially Vlad and Nastya. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. So until next time, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.